Bitcoin is now below $85,000 as part of a broader flight to safety that erased $1 trillion in total market cap from crypto assets over the past month. Meanwhile, Michael Saylor's Strategy, which owns roughly 3% of all Bitcoin, announced this morning the establishment of a cash reserve, as in cash dollars, of $1.44 billion. The stock is down now 11%. So we're trying to figure out whether this sell-off could be the beginning of something more profound, a so-called crypto winter. Maja Vujinovic, FG Nexus CEO of Digital Assets, is joining me now. Maja, you guys, FG Nexus is an Ethereum treasury company, and Ethereum certainly hasn't been spared from this either. It is down sharply from the peak. So, for people who have been in crypto for a while, how do you figure out if it is a crypto winter, and what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and good morning to you. I hope you got some rest over the holiday. I certainly couldn't get some rest because, as you just pointed out, crypto's just been up and down. Look, I don't think that this is really a crypto winter yet, right? This is simply kind of a risk-off shakeout from the market. I mean, you are very well aware that in October 10th, we've had kind of that massive drain out of crypto. We've also had government shutdown, right? We have, Fed one day hot, one day cold. I think just investors are really tired, and investors have been taking some chips off the table. So I think for us at FG Nexus, really, none of this really changes our fundamentals. It doesn't change, how we run a transparent and no leverage, Ethereum treasury company. And so I do understand that a lot of folks right now are looking at this and thinking, Michael Saylor does the opposite, right? He's been kind of buying at the tops when Bitcoin has been really high. And that's something that I think has been quite wrong, actually, in that strategy. And so I do think that that sentiment also has put a bit of pressure on crypto, and people have kind of gotten scared over the weekend.
So you think strategy, sort of buying regularly, no matter the price, is not the correct strategy?
It is a correct strategy, but you also have to be smart. This is this is an asset that's very risky, and you have to be smart. And you're really, the number one thing in your mind should be the shareholders, right? So be it that you are, you need to wait for a certain pullbacks to buy, you need to buy a stock back, right? These are all things that are really important for shareholders. And so I think, he kind of said that he's going to be forced selling, right? And that was a rumor, obviously, but people have taken that rumor as true, and you've had that sell-off. And where historically he's been kind of mostly buying at the tops. And so I do think that kind of signals to folks, a little bit of a scare, and they want to pull back and take some chips off the table.
So in the case of FG Nexus, how do you know when to buy Ethereum and add it on? And have you guys experienced any sort of forced selling as we have seen Ethereum continue to drop?
Look, I think the reason why we chose Ethereum, because it's a productive asset, right? Bitcoin is not. Ethereum, we can stake and earn yield. You can do liquid staking. You can use it in DeFi, which, by the way, all those fundamentals in blockchain are growing, right? So as I said, this is nothing, this kind of shakeout. I actually personally think the shakeout is quite healthy. It takes out, traders, it takes out leverage out of the market, and it really keeps the strong builders that really believe in this technology, which is part of the reason why I came into this space about 15 years ago. And so for us, we have bought our stock back, and this is where we feel like that we are adding to our shareholders, because we have to be careful around when we also buy. Yes, you should be continuously buying, right, that asset as a DAT, but you also should be really smart about when you selling Ethereum, if you need to sell Ethereum, or whatever asset that you're holding, and then when you need to buy your stock back.
The relationship between crypto and stocks, it seemed to have faded a little bit, right? But then this morning again, we got risk off everything.
Yeah, Julie, and that yen issue that Jared was just talking about, one strategist pointing to the last time that this happened back in August of 2024, you saw Bitcoin going down 18%, but then a couple months later, it recovered. Even the most sort of bearish or near-term bearish sort of strategists when it comes to Bitcoin are saying that this sell-off seems to be a bit excessive. But you do have thin liquidity. The retail is absent. You have had outflows. November was the second worst month for outflows of ETFs, Bitcoin ETFs. So that is sort of painting a scenario whereby some strategists are seeing that the range, either Bitcoin is still trying to find a bottom, or that the range could be anywhere. I've seen some estimates between 70 and 100,000 for the end of the year. December tends to be a consolidation period for Bitcoin. It's now down 7% year to date, Julie.
Well, and we can continue to watch what's going on with Strategy, aka, or formerly known as Microstrategy. Over the weekend, the CEO, not Michael Saylor, who's the executive chairman, but the CEO, Fang Lei, said on a podcast that they would sell Bitcoin if they had to sell Bitcoin. But then they came out with an update this morning and said they bought more Bitcoin and they're creating a dollar reserve, Ines.
Yeah, that's right. Because the concern has been by some investors that if Bitcoin were to go low enough, then they would have to be forced to sell tokens in order to pay for their dividends and also pay for interest on debt. And so what they've announced now is this US dollar reserve. So this kind of is in response, or it appears to be in response to this concern. And what this would allow for them, it's a $1.44 billion of a US dollar reserve. So this would be and they say that this would be to pay dividends. This would also be to pay interest on debt if volatility should continue with Bitcoin. And they're assuming that Bitcoin would stay in the range anywhere between 85,000 to 110,000 by year end. But this matters because basically this is giving a cushion. This is saying, hey, we don't have to sell any Bitcoin. We've got this reserve. If we go into a crypto winter, we're set. And as you mentioned, also, by the way, they did buy 130 tokens last week.
Yeah, well, they also updated their forecast and said, well, Bitcoin's lower than it has been, so we have to update our overall numbers.